Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There you go, right down there. You want to be among the first to hear my weekly takes, NFL, college football, more, right there. I was watching the Cowboys, and listen, they played the kind of schedule where they've had several blowout wins, most at home. And so when you have a blowout win, the snap count for some of your starters is lower. You can rest guys, whereas Philadelphia just looks tired. I thought Dallas tonight looked fast and fresh, and they've had a lot of their players, stars, and starters that could rest second half and later in games this year. And there is something to be said about a heavy snap count. So you start looking at Philadelphia. I thought they'd really show up tonight. It'd be a very, very physical, kind of a 24-20 game. But, they played the Cowboys in Kansas City and then San Francisco and then Buffalo and the Cowboys again. Those are tough matchups. Those are grueling physical matchups. There's no Carolina in there. There's no New York Giants. Your defense doesn't get to face the Jets, whereas the Cowboys have half a dozen games like that this year. And so it does matter. And so I think it's just fatigue. I think tonight Philadelphia looked old and tired. And Dallas looked young, fast, and fresh. And right now, at this point in the season, they're a better team than Dallas. But the Eagles' schedule lightens up. They get the Seahawks. I think it's next Monday, so they get an extra day off. They need it. But I was thinking watching that game. So one of the Cowboy players that had a very good night was Stephon Gilmore. And they only used a fifth-round pick to get him. And so, it's when they went out and spent a fifth-round pick on Stephon Gilmore, I thought it was a good move. Gilmore's past his prime, but still, in big spots against big receivers, really smart player, been around, knows how to manipulate it, create fumbles. So a fifth-round pick has about 15% chance of, 18% chance of even making the league. And it's interesting. I've always thought if I was a GM, and I could go get a really good player on a good team, I wouldn't waste it. Or if it was a position of need, I would make a lot of moves like that. So Montez Sweat went to the Chicago Bears for a second-round pick. Now, you have to pay him, but Montez Sweat's a really, really good defensive lineman. And every good team, the Super Bowl champs last year, Kansas City, paid one defensive lineman, Chris Jones. The Rams Super Bowl team, at that time, they had Von Miller kind of renting him and Aaron Donald. But generally, NFL general managers want to spend most of their money, the good franchises, on offense, on a weapon or two, quarterback, left tackle. If you look at San Francisco, they pay Kittle and Debo and McCaffrey and Trent Williams. That's what you want to do. And you want to have your defense to be pretty inexpensive, young. You want a young defense. Young defenses are faster. They're hurt less often, and when they're hurt, they're back on the field more quickly than an older defense. But Stephon Gilmore was a good player for a fifth-round pick. Montez Sweat, the Bears needed an elite defensive lineman anyway, and they gave up a second-rounder. Well, how many players are going to be as good as Montez Sweat in the second round? Not many. Do you realize only about 30 to 32% of players drafted make the roster? Yes, that's true. Only about 30 to 32%, somewhere in that range of NFL players make a roster. Now, it's much higher in the first two rounds. It's not linear. But when you get to the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh round, those numbers go down to 8%, 10%, 15%, 17%. And so, go to last year's draft. The first player taken, Bryce Young, many think looks like a bust already. The first player. Another top 10 player, Tyree Wilson, defensive lineman for the Raiders. Not very effective, could be a bust. 2 in the top 10. 30% of the first round is usually ineffective, suboptimal, or a bust. That's the first round. So Montez Sweat has absolutely helped the Chicago Bears defense for a second rounder. Now, they did that for Chase Claypool, but that's a position of need, wide receiver, not as crucial as an elite defensive lineman. But college football also gives you on an annual basis lots of good receivers. So that's a riskier move. But Montez Sweat has been worth it. Stephon Gilmore, fifth-round pick, been worth it. Christian McCaffrey went for a second, third, fourth, and fifth. But San Francisco's second, third, fourth, and fifth round picks are late round picks because they're so good. So the first pick they really gave up would be a late second rounder. That's somewhere between like the 57th pick, 58th pick. You're out of guaranteed stars by the 58th pick. Average NFL GMs believe that most I've talked to that you usually have 16 to 17 elite players in any draft. After that, mid first to late second, all about the same. So Christian McCaffrey is a generational player. And I remember when San Francisco made that move, I'm like, this is a home run. You just gave Kyle Shanahan, Picasso, an open canvas and fresh paint. It was a great move. You didn't give up multiple ones. You give up a late second, a late third, a late fourth, and a late fifth. Late fifth probably doesn't make the league. Or if he does, it's 7, 8, 10% chance he makes the league. So I'm surprised that more teams don't roll the dice on this stuff. Giving up first-round picks is tough because, I mean, you take a look at left tackle. Most great left tackles in my lifetime have been first-round picks. Very hard to find a great sixth-round left tackle. Goes back to what they call the planet theory. Former NFL GM George Young of the New York Giants years ago used to have this theory. There's just only so many 6'7", 330-pound men with great feet on the planet. So, you get these enormous defensive linemen that are gifted. Jalen Carter. You get Trent Williams, Jonathan Ogden. These kind of first-round left tackles. They're usually first-round picks. But Dallas looks like a very good football team. They've got several things that Super Bowl winning teams have. A good quarterback having a career year, a veteran coach who's been to a Super Bowl, certainly knows the playoffs, an elite pass rusher, a star weapon, which CeeDee Lamb has become, and this will be their 8th blowout of the year. That's about the average, 7 to 8 blowouts per year for a Super Bowl champ. So Dallas, and they also have a great kicker, which it matters in close games. We always worry about Mike McCarthy, situational football close games. Chris Collinsworth pointed it out tonight. When you have a great kicker and you kick those 57, 58, 59-yard field goals and they're good, you look so much smarter as a head coach. So this is the first time I remember really looking at the Dallas Cowboys differently. I thought tonight's game would be close, but Dallas, a little bit of a front runner. They're a great home favorite, a fantastic home favorite. They love playing downhill, but you know what? It counts. Now, Philadelphia wins out. They still win the division. Their schedule is pretty light. Seattle, I think they faced the New York Giants a couple of times, but Dallas deserves a lot of credit. In the NBA, the games can change in an instant, but no matter how the action unfolds, do you know that Draftking Sportsbook has you covered? This week, new customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets by just betting $5 on basketball. How good of a deal is that from DraftKings Sportsbook? Win or lose, you get the instant W. Instant. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Please use the code Colin, COLIN. New customers, $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5. The code is Colin, COLIN. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app, code Colin. The crown is yours. I said this last week on FS1. Packers play tomorrow against the New York Giants, favored by about a touchdown, should win. Christian Watson, I do not believe plays, but they should win anyway. The Green Bay Packers right now, from what I've seen in the last 3 weeks, are better than the Green Bay Packers last year with Aaron Rodgers. Mike McCarthy. Dallas looks like they can play with anybody in the sport. San Francisco 49ers, Dallas Cowboys look as good as anybody in the sport. Isn't that interesting? Green Bay has not lost a step with Aaron Rodgers leaving. Mike McCarthy's career, never been a better brand than it is right now without Aaron Rodgers. Usually the great all-time quarterbacks leave a wake. Aaron has left no wake. Green Bay's good. Mike McCarthy's fine. Devontae Adams, by the way. Now, Raiders didn't score today, but Devontae Adams last year led the NFL in touchdowns. I think he had 14. So it's not that Aaron wasn't talented and isn't talented, but the great quarterbacks, Montana, Elway, Brady, Mahomes, tend to have these skills beyond talent, like leadership, resilience, toughness. Aaron threw a pretty ball. Aaron Rodgers threw a pretty ball. Denver, when Elway left. Miami, when Marino left. There's a wake. It's like, wow, we take a step back as a franchise. If Green Bay wins tomorrow, and I suspect they will over the New York Giants, with or without Christian Watson, they're a better team. 1 year removed from Aaron Rodgers. And Mike McCarthy, and I've been critical of his situational football, this is a really good team with a lot of components. And Dak looks really comfortable. Talking about draft picks, my only criticism of the Cowboys really this year is I thought they should have given up a draft pick and traded for Derrick Henry of the Titans, because I thought to myself, they're going to have leads in some playoff games and want to burn the clock. And they don't have that pounded running back. Pollard's kind of a 2, not a 1. I thought Dallas could have made another move. And boy, is Jerry Jones going to be obnoxious if this is a Super Bowl team. But they look like it for the first time in a long time. They look like a Super Bowl team.